Tonight, people freak out over rumors that the Transgender Day of Visibility is replacing Easter. Apologists try to intellectualize anti-LGBTQ bigotry. And if we have time, we might look at a couple of other current events. This is Sedanza.
Greetings, salutations, welcome back everybody to Sedanza. I'm Objectively Dan, that guy over there is Zod, prophet of, and yeah, this is the show where we talk about whatever the hell we want. Guess what, folks? We're tired. We're both tired. We've had long days, long weeks, but we're here tonight. We're bringing the energy to you to talk about the gays and everything that comes with it, I guess. Zod, what's going on? How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm a little wiped. I don't know what it is. There's a semi-bug going around and I'm pretty drained and things have been crazy at work. But hey, we're here. We're ready to have fun. And apparently Shivers is ready to put their dirty hands on trans hands over all the other holidays too.
Which is, I mean, slay queen. That's what I'd say. But no,
yes.
In case you guys were living under a rock, last weekend was Easter. And not only that, but also it was the Trans Day of Visibility, which just so happened to coincide with Easter this year. Easter always happens alongside Passover, and Passover always happens alongside, I believe it's a full moon, right? So it kind of changes when Easter happens. So it just so happened that Easter and Trans Day of Visibility were the same day. And folks, let me tell you something. People did not like this. More noticeably, President Biden, Joseph Robinette Biden himself, put a statement out from the office of the president recognizing Trans Day of Visibility. And just recognizing it, I guess, was enough to just really set people off. People were really mad this weekend. I saw more posts about that than people being happy about Easter this weekend. That's, I think, how mad people were from the Christian community, at least.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. I think pretty clearly this is not a group of people that tends to think things just happen to fall on certain days. Everything has to be a conspiracy, usually a woke conspiracy. And so, yeah, they thought that Biden basically just stood up and declared from now on, this day is Trans Day of Visibility instead of Easter. Easter's canceled. No more Jesus. No more he is risen. He's risen indeed. No more Easter eggs. Just
it is the ultimate recipe. Ultimate recipe for like an Alex Jones level conspiracy of, wow, they're trying to pre-program you, by getting you used to this idea on the same day as Easter so that you can think like one is more important than the other. It is kind of funny that it happened the way that it did. I'm not gonna lie, like it's pretty funny for me. It's not great, I imagine, for the trans people that saw that and were probably disheartened, by the posts that were not in support of their community. So yeah, people were big mad. Bigotry just full on out, just pants down, letting it hang loose. It wasn't great.
I guess Fox News, purple rhymes with orange saying, told them it was an attack, which I'm not the least bit surprised by.
Recognizing that trans people exist is an attack on Easter, I guess, somehow. So take that as you will.
Christians can't even have their Easter anymore. Can't even celebrate the Lord Jesus. And I do want to acknowledge, while we're obviously on the Transgender Day of Visibility side of this and on the not being gross about it, it probably is easy for us to take this as both disgusting but also a little funny and to treat it, but we don't really treat it lightly, even though sometimes I guess you just have to laugh to cope with how dumb and weird everybody is. So I do want to acknowledge I don't really know what it's like to live through that day with people taking this out on me directly, and I am sorry if that was anybody's experience. It's a shame that people are like that, but
yeah,
it's the world we live in.
I have no doubt it was a hard day for a lot of people for multiple reasons. But like we want to talk about it because we want to say we're on your fucking side. Like, fuck those people. We're we're
Yeah,
down to clown on some haters. So that's what we're
it's
all about.
always an excuse for their two of their favorite things, which is dumping on trans people and then acting like they're persecuted and the world's taking everything away from them. One of the ways this was brought to my attention is on my video about how Christians like to act like they're being picked on. Someone commented saying like, "Oh, they're not being picked on, and that's why Easter's being replaced by the Trans Day of Vengeance. Ooh, I mean visibility and stuff like that." And I had to explain, actually, this day has been here for I think 14 years.
Yeah,
And this is just the one day it happened to fall on Easter. And this person was actually good enough to say, okay, I misunderstood. I guess people have been giving me bad information.
that's good.
But
That's good. Yeah, say what you will about the Biden presidency. At least they fucking did it. They didn't shy away. There is like I could easily see a conversation of them being like, maybe not this year. You know what I mean? But no, they did it. They didn't give a fuck. There's
yeah,
no way. There's no way they didn't anticipate a response like that, right? Like this far into this particular presidency and seeing the reactions people get, there's no way that they didn't anticipate that could have possibly been a response. So you know what? Shout outs to Biden's PR team or whatever, whoever drafted, obviously he didn't write that stuff or whatever, but hey, shout outs to the
yeah.
folks that made him do it anyway. It's kind of awesome, I guess. So
Yeah, it
uh
was probably a small performative gesture, but it was something. It's, anything like that, acknowledging before the full on next wave of whatever our country looks like comes,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
whatever drop in the bucket you can get, I guess.
Yeah. And so on that note, Zod, I've been even before it was going to line up on the Sunday, last week or two, I've kind of been on this little side quest. See, the great thing about having a YouTube channel like the Zadanza channel is that our most recommended videos are completely unhinged, like the most out of the way stuff. Oh, and the best part's the ads. I actually took a screenshot. I forgot. I was going to show you a screenshot. I wanted to add it here of like one of the ads I got. It's always a third of the time it's prepper stuff. Another third of the time it's like investments, particularly Bitcoin. And then another third of the stuff is like how to, invest in your small business. Like where I think YouTube thinks we're like a 65-year-old small business owner in Florida that hates gay people and goes to church because that's all our ads on the channel. It's awesome. But anyway, I've been looking into the sort of Christians who are gay, but say they aren't gay, but like deny LGBT people sort of community. And I say the word community, I guess, because there's more than one. It's bigger than you'd think. Some of the channels I was looking at were like, 500,000 subscribers big, right? Like they're not like small folks, and all of them have books and stuff. Now I'm talking about folks who, maybe previously identified as gay but don't anymore, or folks who have detransitioned as they prefer, who once identified as being trans and not being trans. So like there's a whole ass community of people just like talking about this stuff. And it's kind of weird because when I think of folks who are typically against the LGBT community, it's usually guys that look like us. It's like straight cis white dudes mostly talking about it, right? But no, these are people who I mean some of them definitely at least queer, and some of them still, saying we'll get into how they identify, I guess. But like it's just this weird little niche that I just don't see talked about like as much. Kind of weird. So I did a little deep dive on that, Zod, and we'll talk about a video I found on that today.
But first, we have a super chat. Not sure how to pronounce this name. Mealy. Wait until next year when Christians find out Easter falls on Weed Day. I did
Oh,
hear that was coming.
oh, heck yeah, sweet. That's awesome. Looking forward to that.
You-
We won't be there though because the eclipse will take us all out. I think the rapture is coming next week, but
yeah,
nice to think
probably.
about it.
Yeah, I think this is, this is kind of Easter is educational for Christians because when they have a holiday that just wanders around, they learn that all these other days exist that, they probably had no clue about. So now all these Christian parents who heard their youth group age kids talking about 420 are going to suddenly realize with horror what what they've been saying all this time.
Right? Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the state of like. I think maybe I'll come to this conclusion later, but the conclusion I see of Christendom, right, coming to terms with some of this stuff is either some of them will kind of be accepting of it, or they will always just be mad at this. I don't see where everybody's going to be happy at the end of the day. I feel like there's always going to be a conflict with the acceptance of just LGBT people in general. I really don't see an end game there that doesn't involve, a massive conflict.
Yeah. And part of the problem is that classic thing that we're seeing in our society, which is, I think, broadly across Christianity and religion in general, people are becoming more accepting. But the more the general population becomes accepting, the more the fringe on the outside, which has become the most vocal part of Christianity and conservatism, digs in their heels and becomes more angry and more ugly.
Yeah.
And it's then discourse starts to look like that's what we're standing up against, which it is, but I don't think it's really that much of the general population.
Yeah.
I hope not anyway.
I hope not too. I was going to say, I don't know for sure. It's hard to tell because there's always going to be bigoted people. You don't need to have a religious belief to justify that. It just makes it easier, right?
Yeah.
It makes it a lot easier to have those kinds of worldviews when you can go to your friends and be like, "Oh yeah, this is how I feel about it." Get your podcast viewers to agree with you, or whatever. However, Ben Shapiro sleeps at night. I don't know, but I don't know, Zod. I want to talk about this video I found here. You want to jump right into that?
Sure. I do want to add one other thing, and I'm sure this has occurred to other people, but I just find it hilarious that Christianity suddenly becomes appalled by the idea of taking over somebody else's holiday when they catch any whiff of it happening to them. Like
Yeah.
Easter and Christmas are not where they are because that's actually when Jesus was born or died on the cross.
True.
It's because Christians saw other people celebrating and they say, "Hey, we'll take that for ourselves." And
That's a
now
great
just by
point.
accident, somebody else's day bumps into theirs and they like lie on the floor and start crying. It's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
you poor babies. I'm so sorry."
Yeah, yeah. Plus, I mean, if you're like Catholic, for example, gosh, like every other week or something, there's a holiday, right? Some saint's day or something. Like you can't take up all the days, okay? You got to share some for the rest of us.
This is apparently Jesus singing, "I was going to have a second coming, but then I got high." It's been 2,000 years.
Yeah.
So,
Do you know about that song? Do you know who that is?
I don't know who it is, but I've heard it. I've
It's
heard it by
Afro
somebody.
Man.
Oh, okay. Somebody
Yeah.
sang a version of that where this person, like, I'm not going to name who it is, but they have like a job and a kid and all that stuff, and so they sing the opposite where I want to get high, but I need to do my job. I gotta get high, but I gotta take care of my kid, and so they have to get high in the right parts of their life or
Oh no,
whatever.
maybe you're thinking of the original song because the original song is "Because I Got High" by Afro Man, and it's literally just a thing like, "Oh, I was gonna go to work, but I got high instead," or "I was gonna, do well in school, but I got high." Like that's the whole song. That's literally the whole thing. So maybe we're talking about the
Yeah,
same thing.
he just reversed that song, I guess, whichever one that was. Anyway,
Okay. Anyway, shout out to
do you
Afro
want to
Man.
watch your video of Frank Turek?
I want to watch my video. Oh yeah, I should have. I hid the lead there. This is Frank Turek. That's another reason why I picked this clip in particular. I wanted to at first I wanted to do one about folks in the transition community because it was more related to the day. But the ones I found, they were kind of more longer interviews. I didn't find like good clips right away. And I don't know, the vibe I got from a lot of those a lot more grifty, I feel like, the other ones. Like, obviously, you can explore your gender identity and stuff, and experiment and realize, hey, maybe this isn't for you. But like, I don't know, they almost felt more mean-spirited in some ways. This one's also mean-spirited though, to be fair. Like, this guy does have some weirdly nasty views that we're going to talk about. But yes, Apology is upset because we're talking about Frank Turek. Yeah, it's Frank, old Frankie Frank, talking to an allegedly ex-member of the LGBT community here. So
if it makes you feel any better, between both of these videos we're looking at, Frank is on screen for like maybe 10 seconds at most.
True.
He basically asks somebody a question and you never see his face again. So yeah. This is where I think this shows where the whole fight against apologetics is important. Like, some people think it's a little bit petty. Like, why do you sit there and bother with these eggheads who sit there and argue about the existence of God? There are many reasons, but one of them is that ultimately this thinking moves on to rationalize things like this, which is being just absolutely terrible to people and trying to put an intellectual facade over basically marginalizing or oppressing groups of people. And it doesn't always do that, but the end game of apologetics is not just to sit around and talk about Jesus and why there's evidence for God. It ultimately has some agenda, which is making society more Christian. And a lot of times it looks like this. So I think this is where we're seeing the rubber hit the road in terms of apologetics seeing through what kind of society it wants us to have.
Yes.
And how it wants to behave toward other people. And
yes, I have a lot to say about the perception of this video and like what its intended goals are, and just a lot to say. But I think we should just start with it first. Let's give people a taste.
Yeah, to sum it all up, usually we're all fun and games, but this is what you would call a very special Zadanza.
Yeah.
All right, this is gonna fly right in, and I don't have the little title thing, so we're gonna hear Frank talking right away. Trigger warning for those who feel the way Paul does about Frank.
I think is the one thing that Christians don't fully comprehend when it comes to witnessing to the gay community.
Yeah, I think the one thing that Christians are missing is how the world has made this huge error. And it's not just they don't understand that this is sinful behavior. I believe even a bigger error is how the world and now Christians are conflating sexuality with personhood. Where it's no longer, if you were asked someone who identifies.
Can I just point something out?
Yeah.
Okay, first, obviously, that first question, what's Christianity getting wrong about this? Somebody could write a book about that, and it probably would not look like something Frank would write.
Yeah, true. What an interestingly phrased question. What are Christians doing wrong when witnessing to the gay community? Like, can we talk about how that's worded? No regular human being thinks like that, right? Like, that's just not a thing. You have to be in such a specific niche of mind to like even word a question like that, right? If you're not a Christian or if you've never encountered apologetics, that must be like the weirdest question ever. Like, if you've never been a part of any ministry, right? How strange of a question that is.
Yeah. What's going wrong when we go try to convert other people to our religion?
Yeah. What are we doing wrong when we witness to gay people? Let me count the ways, actually. You should ask me that, Frank Turek. I'll give you a different answer than this guy, for sure.
Maybe let's just start with what you're doing, like, but there's another little thing here. A lot of this is in the visuals, and I found how they coordinate these visuals a little ugly. Watch this for just a second here.
Yeah.
Conflating sexuality with personhood, where it's no longer.
Like, did that wink feel like it was meant to be something? They're conflating sexuality with personhood.
It's weird because they're showing people very happy and like doing stuff, and I can tell they're being sarcastic about it in a way, almost, right? Like, it's definitely mean-spirited. They're trying to show like, oh, look how weird these people are, right? Like, the framing of this is so weird. Like, if we were to show something like that, or if any other person was to show something like that, it would be whatever. But because this is on Frank Turek's Apologetics channel, I'm immediately suspicious. Like, there's no way he didn't think like, oh, look at these gay people celebrating or whatever, right? Or look at these trans people celebrating,
Yeah, maybe I'm reading a lot into it, but especially with the way that wink was put right at that spot, I took it as they're up to something and they're being a little coy about it. Or right when it says conflating sexuality with personhood, it's like almost like it's kind of like weird, naughty sexual. Like it was meant to be like
Yeah.
flirtatious or seductive or something like
Yeah.
that. I don't know. Something about it just felt gross to me.
If anybody's conflating sexuality with personhood, it's fucking Frank Turek and these people here, right? You've immediately just clocked these people just for their sexuality. Like you don't even give a shit about anything else about these people. You're immediately framing them as, oh, this is what they do. These people, this is their community. You know, none of the other positives that come in association with being a part of a community in general, but it's just like, oh, you like this because you're a dude that likes other dudes. Like they just like immediately go for, you know, the sexual part, which is like, it's not like legalistically wrong, but like it's kind of weird. Like when I think of my friends who are gay or who are in the LGBT space, my first thought and I'm immediately identifying qualifier is not, wow, this is my friend Jamie and he's gay. It's just like, no, he's a person. The gay part is just a kind of a fun bonus, I guess. Like it's not like my entire relationship with him. But to Frank Turek, that is all that matters in this question. It's very weird. I don't know. A lot of weird vibes.
Well, it's not purely about sex anyway. Like, is Frank's marriage nothing but his sexuality or his sex
Yeah.
life or whatever? There's there are whole other elements to that. So there are people in gay relationships like that their lives don't just revolve around sex, but that's all Christians can see, like you said.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
anyway,
Very true. All right, let's keep going here.
If you were asked someone who identifies as gay, whether they say they're Christian or not, you're asked them, what do you mean? They will not say, this is what I feel. They will not say, this is what I do. What they're going to say is, this is who I am. That word who reveals this huge error.
I don't even think that's true. Like, I just think that's categorically false. I think if you asked a person why they're gay, they say it's because they like certain kind of person. I don't even think it's because they say, oh, it's just who I am. It's such like a weird phrasing, right?
yeah. And so what anyway? Like, I don't know. I think maybe what he's saying is that they're saying that this is an integral part of me, or I think part of it is having a conversation that Christians like this are kind of forcing them into, which is saying, no, this isn't just a decision I make. This isn't just a lifestyle choice.
Right.
This part of me is part of my identity. They're not saying that this is all of me, but I think Christians back them into a corner by saying, oh, you're just making a lifestyle choice. You're just choosing to sin, blah, blah, blah. And like, no, this is me. I can't change this.
Right. He does have umbrage with that phraseology, and he'll talk about that in just a second. But yeah.
Sexuality is not who you are, but how you are. And when, Frank, how can we talk to someone that this is, or even have this discussion or try to convince someone that this is sinful behavior when they don't even view it as behavior? If you were to talk to me 25 years ago, before my conversion, and you were say, Frank, you were to tell me this is sin.
Okay, just real quick, this is irrelevant, but does the editing on this video like give you motion sickness and make you feel like you're on a roller coaster?
It's a little too much.
Chill out, editors. Come on.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you have any other thoughts on that?
No. I mean, I'm debating whether
to pause the roller coaster before I throw up.
Okay, so he's being very specific with his words here, and he's being very fast with it. So I want to make sure everybody's keeping up with what he's trying to say. Okay, this is a classic Christian thing. Christians don't accept the idea that you can be gay as a person. They want to identify homosexuality by the specific acts because they want to identify it as a sin act, right? Because ultimately you can have gay desires, right? As they would call homosexual desires. But if you act upon it, that's the sin. Okay. This is what this dude's thing is about. And this is what other people that I've kind of looked into are kind of about. This guy, I don't know as much about him as I know about some of the other folks, but a lot of them surprisingly won't say, yeah, I'm completely healed from like liking men or whatever, right? It's more just like, oh, I've either chosen to be celibate, or I've learned to like have a marriage with a woman anyway, even though, you know, they have desires for other things, I guess. So it's just like this. It's a very, yeah, if you just view it as an identifier, an unchangeable identifier, then you just look like an asshole. And that's kind of the problem, because they're just assholes. Like, yeah, you are being bigoted towards people who are just like this. Like, you know, that's kind of the whole crux of the matter, right? Or crux of the matter is that, yeah, these are people who are born a particular kind of way, and yeah, their expression of it is going to be cultural, but that's it. You're just hating on people who are gay. Anyway, there was a lot of thoughts there.
But by the way, we caught him in just like the loveliest kissy face. Like, it looks
It's
like
true. It's true.
Mike brought up something that I'd kind of been thinking about as you were talking. What if heterosexuality was the sin? So, you know, Christians have very firmly established that God can come up with new covenants, right? We don't live the way they lived in the Old Testament because God can change. So what if tomorrow God came up with a new covenant saying that heterosexuality was a sin and you all had to be homosexual?
Yeah.
What would it feel like to say Frank Turek for suddenly his marriage to his wife to become a sin? And now he either needs to take on celibacy or marry a dude and just suck it up and, you know,
Yeah.
be in
No,
a
that's a,
gay marriage. Like, sorry, go
yeah.
ahead.
It's a good point. It's just like, this is just the status quo. You're just enforcing the status quo, right? The heterosexual norm here, and so it's easy to just be like, oh yeah, this is wrong, because like for most people, statistically, most people, right? Most people aren't gay, so it's not something that they can really even begin to empathize with, let alone understand, because it's just not within their purview. It's been very easy to just say, oh well, forget about these people. But now, as they're more outspoken people, even like this guy, who bring a more complicated problem, because it's like, yeah, he's not saying he doesn't like men still or whatever, or he's been completely healed of that. Some of them maybe do that, but not all of them. It's a little bit more nuanced. We don't have to talk about these people like they don't exist anymore. They do exist. So what's the next kind of boxing here? Oh, well, we can't talk about it as identity. We have to talk about it as behavior, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of a thing here. But Lou Billar brought up a great point, saying, oh, as if they wouldn't answer, I am a Christian, and that is who I am, if they were asked, who are you? That's a great point. That,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, absolutely.
Isn't there a whole Christian song about that? Like, that's who I am.
Yeah.
And they have all these metaphors for what it means to be a child of Christ and everything.
See, it's not who
Yeah.
you are, Zod. You're just expressing Christian behaviors. Not your identity.
That is one of the things. I mean, I know this is well-trodden behavior, but this whole thing about it just being behavior and you can choose to have the temptation but not act on it is just so, I don't, it's deeply cruel, especially if you were to consider what that if there were that reversal. Okay, just walk away from your wife who you're in love with. Your relationship with her is just sexuality. You're not your sexuality. You don't need to continue in that sin. Go marry a dude or just be celibate.
Yeah.
That would not feel like just temptation. Like they're trying to equate, well, I might feel tempted for money, but I don't go rob a bank. And so you can feel tempted for being with a man and you don't need to do that. It's
yeah. This isn't, by the way, like, I want this to be clear. This isn't just like a minor person's view within Christianity, right? This guy, this clip has over 200,000 views on YouTube. And there's a lot of comments of people saying, oh, wow, yeah, I used to be gay. Or, yeah, I've struggled with this, but this has been helpful to me, you know, in rectifying like those feelings with their Christianity. Because yeah, that's another thing too. It's not like gay people don't say they have feelings. For I don't know why he's saying this is such a revelation. Oh, they're using it as identity and not describing their feelings. Like he literally said that. Like, what are you talking about? Yeah, that is part of their feelings. But I guess he uses that as a point to say, oh, you shouldn't trust your feelings, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, we'll keep going here.
I wouldn't hear you saying that, oh, what you're saying is, what I'm doing is sin or my desire is sinful. I would hear you say that my whole person from head to toe is reprehensible to you and to God. Because I could not hate my sin without hating myself. Now that I know Christ, I can hate my sin without hating myself. And when there is this huge error, this confusion.
Okay. This was another point in this video where I was like, wow, I have to talk about this. Because if that is not the most fucking saddest thing I have ever seen while doing this show, I don't know what is. Because this is very subtle. Do you catch what he's saying here, Zod? I know you do, but for illustrative purposes here.
Go ahead.
He's saying you have to understand that this is a sin behavior and not an identity, because otherwise you'd hate yourself. And you can hate the sin behavior without hating yourself. You see how fucked up that is? Holy shit. This is a guy who probably hated himself because he was gay. Because Christianity taught him that was a wrong thing. And this is how he's rectified this, right? Like, I'm not trying to psychoanalyze here. I don't know this guy from anybody else. But how can you say something like that without thinking about the psychological repercussions there, right? I mean,
and they're trying to make a really artificial hard divide. Like, I think there is a spectrum here. Your behavior kind of bleeds into your impulses or your urges or whatever drives you to want to do something. And somewhere that just becomes part of your personhood or what your identity is. You can try to fight some of it back and change some of your habits, but at some point, who you are and how you think manifests as desires to do certain things. So how do you, where do you just draw that line and cut it off and say, no, I know in absolute terms that what you want to do is not you. It's just some little section of behaviors that you can box off and just choose not to do anymore. And how can you presume to know that's the case for everybody? Like, that's weird.
In this, like, in our worldview, right? In you and I's worldview, you can just be gay. Like, it's not a big deal. you live your life. There's no reason to hate yourself for it, because who cares, right? Like, it's fine. Encouraged even. I would rather this person be happy and be with the people that they want to be, rather than somebody say otherwise. But under a Christian worldview, particularly this worldview, you can't have that. You cannot be happy with who you are. And yes, it is who you are, obviously, right? I can't like force myself to like, I mean, maybe I could try to force myself to want men for myself, but why would I want to do that? Like, nobody's forcing me to. There's no pressure to, but there is a constant pressure on gay people in our society to perform heterosexually in some way. Less so now than ever before, but it's still quite prevalent, right? And this guy has just basically said, yeah, that's the real way to live life. The real way to live life is to like the opposite sex, no matter if you want it or not, because doing so otherwise is not only a sin, but is reprehensible. Like, that's literally the word he used, right?
Yeah.
That's just sad. That is incredibly sad. I would not wish that on anybody. I don't know why you'd want to do that to yourself, but here we are.
And if you're going to arrive at the conclusion that a behavior is problematic or bad or wrong, much less reprehensible, I think you need to bring, especially by the time you're going to start using words like reprehensible, you need to bring something pretty serious to the table in terms of showing that there is evident harm that comes from this behavior.
Yeah.
And so we're already taking a pretty big leap in the conversation just by assuming that there's something about this that needs to be fixed. And I kind of like how this, okay, I don't like, but I find it interesting how this ties together with the comparison between an LGBTQ person thinking that they are who, that's a part of their identity. It's just part of who they are, versus a Christian thinking that their faith and their belief in God is who they are and their practice of that. It doesn't really matter unless you start to harm other people or affect other people.
Yeah.
But the Christian thinks this all starts with a Christian thinking, I identify as a Christian and that's who I am. And because of that, not only am I going to behave a certain way, but simply because I identify that way and see certain behavior as reprehensible simply through the lens of this part of my identity, now you need to change your identity or not see that as part of your identity, just so that your behavior validates the fact that I think this is part of my personhood, my belief in God. It's just so weird and messed up.
Yeah. It's super messed up. And yeah, it's just really sad. Again, I saw so many comments from people being like, "Oh, I'm struggling with this," or "I knowing people who are struggling with this, and I'm sending this to them," right? It's just like, this is not a good answer. This is just not a healthy answer for most people. I'm sorry. Maybe this guy has figured he's got it worked out. But it doesn't work for most people. I don't think you can live a life and just be happy that way. I think that's something that you have to at least resign yourself to, right? But you
Yeah.
don't have to. The only reason why is because Christianity says so. That's it. There's no secular harms to just being gay in and of itself, right? Or just like I even choosing to identify. That's the other thing too. I have lots of gay friends who don't really give a shit. They're not into the whole rainbow aesthetic or whatever. They're just living their life. And you know, that's another stereotype that Christian people bring out too, is just like, oh, all gay people act a certain way or perform a certain way, when really they're just as varied and diverse as anybody else, if not more so. Very sad that we all have to conform into, once again, these just heteronormative standards. But like, who cares? Who gives a shit?
I like this. Don't struggle with temptation, give in. And I would say beyond that, don't see it as temptation. That's one question I have. When these people say they're struggling, oh, you've helped me, I've really been struggling. Why are you struggling, and what set off that struggle? If you just lived on an island somewhere with either, let's say you were a gay dude like him, or like he was, or whatever the case is, and you're with other homosexual men and you can just wander around and be in a relationship with who you wish, or peripherally there are just affirming people in your world. What would trigger you to start struggling with this? The only thing that I think sets off this struggle is that there is a community of people around you that applies artificial guilt to whatever you're doing, and you're struggling in response not to any evident harm of what you're doing or anything bad about how it makes you feel, but because I was going to say it causes other people to make you feel wrong or feel social pressure, but yeah, they're responding to negative pressure applied from other people, and they're trying to resolve that, and kind of given the choice between the two things.
Yeah, no, I totally hear what you're saying. It's enforcing traditions and creating a hierarchy in a way, an unjustified hierarchy of just being straight is the way to go. You know, yeah, very problematic to say the least. But let's continue.
Fusion of making your desire who you are, that you can't separate their sexuality from the person, which is why people get so offended. We say this is sin, and we think, I'm just calling this, that your behavior is sinful. Why are you taking so personally? Because it is very personal for them. It is who they are. It is their person. So I think we need to understand that. And
okay, another hypocritical thing here. So he's accusing them of saying that this is just my identity, and if you criticize it, they're just taking it too personally, right?
Yeah.
How do you think most Christians would react to, say, watching one of my God and Jesus cartoons and, seeing me treat those characters irreverently and basically, enact them in blasphemous situations or showing disrespect to their deities or whatever? most people, and I have had a couple comments like this, they take it very personally, as if you had attacked them or a core part of their identity. So suddenly we go from that like that's an automatic problem. You've attacked the core of who I am if you speak disrespectfully of Jesus, or you show him mouthing off to God and swearing at him in a cartoon. Not only is that irreverent, but you've attacked some core part of who I am, and I take personal offense to that. That's natural. But when you actually go after someone's sexuality or their romantic attractions, and say that they need to change it, they're just supposed to like not be offended and just chill out because you're just talking about their behavior. I don't know.
Well, yeah, this is. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, just the sheer hypocritical bullying of it all. And when I do a cartoon like that, for example, I'm just shedding light on certain ideas and showing some inconsistencies and stuff. I'm not demanding any change in behavior out of Christians, yet still they take that level of offense and talk about how blasphemous and hurtful it is and everything like that. But then they come to other people and demean the core of who those people are and say that they actually need to change and put pressure on them to do that.
Yeah, this rhetoric is designed to not take accountability for their own criticisms towards other people, right? It's saying, oh, this isn't a problem with you. This is just a behavior thing that you have, right? Oh, this is just a sin problem. It's not a person problem. Which one, how distinct of a difference is that really? I mean, like you are identifying, you are specifically saying, I mean, this question is even phrased, how do we witness better to LGBT people? So you are just cut the bullshit. You already recognize them as a particular group of people. Like, let's not pretend like this isn't a thing. A society is already way past this point. You can't go back now. Okay. LGBT people exist and use those labels for themselves. So don't pretend like you're separating that. It's not. And yeah, you are talking about a group of people specifically that use those labels for themselves. So you're not just talking about anybody. It is targeted towards a group of people. And you should take responsibility for that and recognize, my rhetoric is targeting towards a very specific group of people that may not be able to actually, I mean, I certainly, I'm not going to be born with gay desires tomorrow. You know what I mean? I'm not just going to start identifying that way tomorrow, right? It happens to people for one reason or another. And you can either accept that as it is, or you can pretend like, oh, this is just a behavior thing. This is just, it's like a gambling addiction or something. It's like, oh, it's just something that you found yourself into. Like, no, man, it's just how people are. I don't know. It's disingenuous to suggest otherwise, I guess. I don't know. Hopefully
I'm not going after you as a person.
Yeah.
All I want is to see you leave your partner and then never have a romantic relationship with anybody you're attracted to anymore. Can't you just chill out and accept that I'm not attacking you as a person?
I'm only trying to disroot your life systematically by not allowing you to marry the people that you want. And not
people just get so offended these days.
Yeah. Not let you adopt the children that you want to adopt, or, go to the church that you want to go to, even because you're not a real Christian. That's a whole other part of the conversation. Tons of gay people identify as Christians too, and that will never be resolved in these people's minds. But anyway, we've talked for a while here. We should let this video play.
How we got there, and I talk about from mid-1800s how we have made it our feelings, our desires, our experience part of who we are. Not only part, it has become almost completely who we are. That's why even gender, a self-perception, how I view myself. How does this self-perception all of a sudden become who you are? See, in the past, we could separate that. I could say, okay, I have these thoughts and my feelings, and I realize that not every thought that I have is right or true or good. So therefore, I need to kind of put my thoughts and my feelings through a filter of truth. We've lost that today. You feel something, that's you. You think something, that's your truth.
Yeah. Okay. Sure.
So yeah, this comes back to the same problem I mentioned before. He says you think that your thoughts and your feelings are you. It's like, what are you then if not your thoughts and feelings? I get that there are some that you can change. You can recognize that some things are undesirable and try to change them. But at some point, the core of who you are is your thoughts and your feelings and your urges that end up manifesting as your behavior. All those things make up you. So peel that away and just say it's all stuff that can be considered sin and we tell you not to do anymore. And then what's left? Like, who are you as a person then?
Yeah. Well, I will say, right, if you've ever been to like a cognitive behavioral therapist, for example, they'll tell you you have to actively change your thoughts, right? And see where your thoughts come from, because your thoughts can negatively impact you or harm you in some
Yeah.
kinds of way, right? If you're in a depressed state of mind and you have thoughts that are depressing, that's not great, right? You want to try to slowly change that over time. The problem is being gay or having gay thoughts, whatever, is not a problem. Like, it's just not. It's fine. It's whatever. It's only a problem if you say it's a problem. If Christianity in particular or other world religions pretty much say it's a problem, because by and large, most secular people these days really don't give a shit. Some of them may think it's weird. That's about it. Right? Like, it's
Yeah.
only the folks who are really actively going out there and saying, "Oh no, this is really wrong, you guys. Oh, it's so harmful. It's doing so many bad things," that are really going to have the problem here. Because for the rest of us, what possible harm is it doing? Right? Nothing. It's just the facade. It's just keeping up the status quo.
Yeah. B.S. Lewis brought up a Frank Turk thing. We're just moist robots. That's all we are.
Moist robots.
But I think what you said brings up an interesting point, because yeah, you can try to change certain thoughts or whatever. Say if you're depressed or you're falling into certain unconstructive thought patterns, things that cause harm. But that cuts to the core of, number one, from a secular perspective, how you view thinking, and then number two, what you're trying to do with it. You don't see that thinking as necessarily transgressive to the point that you need to box it off and say, this is just flatly sinful. It's purely bad. I need to like basically deny that part of me. Even if you're falling into depression or you're having some kind of pattern of thoughts that are causing you difficulty. I'm not a professional, but I don't think they tell you to deny those and pretend that they're not a part of you. You can recognize that they are part of who you are. They do represent something coming from inside of you. And really the goal is to redirect them and to bring them to a healthier place.
Yeah.
Not completely just weed those thoughts out.
No.
And
Just to let it
so
pass, right?
there is something in any pattern of thoughts that is still you, and you can recognize that is there and just redirect it. And you do slightly alter who you are and your identity to some extent, but that's not sheer denial of just this huge section of yourself and trying to change it just because you think it is sinful or transgressive. I don't know. I think there's something way different going on there.
Yeah, I agree. And like, look, I made a joke earlier saying it's not like I'm just going to be gay tomorrow. And like, for me, likely not. There are some people that may have changes in their sexuality and may have like, differences in how they feel about things over time. I think that's true for some of the folks that are in this sort of ex-gay community or whatever, right? But the point is, like, was it ever a big deal in the first place to even have those thoughts, right? What negative besides the social impact, right? Because obviously society doesn't view LGBT people in a positive light in many instances, right? So like there's some social impacts. But if you took that away, what is the harm? What is the big deal? Why does anybody care?
Yeah.
It's not something that you have to therapize yourself out of having. It's not problematic to your life, or it shouldn't be anyway. I don't know. Very sad. Very sad.
What it comes down to is because somebody else considers a certain pattern of thoughts as their identity and thinks that you need to change because of it, because your behavior makes them feel a certain way. And so Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, I got him. I saw the comment saying there are obnoxious amount of ads, so I just shut them off. Please let me know if you see them start to flag off at this point. I mean to shut them off during the actual live stream so that people's experience with us live isn't interrupted, and we'll turn it back on when it goes to replay. So let me know if you keep seeing them. We'll better understand how all that works. Anyway, sorry.
No.
So you want to get into the sorry, go ahead.
No, we said a lot about that video. That was only like a 3-minute video, and we spoke about it for like almost 30 minutes, I think. But I just had a lot of thoughts about this. There was a lot that was said there in that short amount of time, and so many implications. Like, I just can't believe
it's the stuff that should get you fired up as a basically empathetic human. Like the demands they're making of people and the way they're behaving toward them. That's the stuff that, you know, I can have this level-headed approach to apologetics, but when you act like this toward people, I start to have more of an issue. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's all good. It's just I used to kind of, when I was first figuring stuff out, right? When I was doing my own deconstruction journey, I kind of was figuring out, man, what is the big deal? You know, why do LGBT people talk about all this stuff so much? Why is it such a big deal? And it's because of shit like this. Like, what the fuck? Like, this is absolutely saying implicitly that there is a hierarchy in place, in that if you are gay or if you're acting on gay thoughts, whatever they want to call it, right? You are not living up to the standard of what it is to be a good person. That's it. That is exactly the problem. Right? It's you will never be accepted fully in society as the way that you are or how you identify. This guy is like just clearly saying that. He's like, you don't even get the right to have an identity. That's what he's saying. He wants you to not have an identity. He'd rather you use his terminology and his language to phrase your behaviors so that he can problematize it. And that's so obscenely fucked. It really pisses me off. I don't know. Like I'm a straight guy. I have no dog in this race other than these are my friends and people I care about that are absolutely going to be harmed by this. And if you just, as you said, if you just don't have basic empathy, I guess this is where your mind can go to. I don't know. Just very frustrating to me. Very sad. You know?
Yeah. And they snuck in a little thing at the end where he says, everything needs to be grounded in truth, like the way we see identities and the way we relate to people. It's like, where's the assumption that this is truth? You can't show us any evident harm that comes from this. You need to back this whole conversation up and show us that there is a God that is offended by this, and also that we should care that God is offended by it, and all that other kind of stuff. Like, and that's really what they do, is they just slip the idea of truth in and just use that as an assumption that their beliefs are truth and that everyone needs to conform. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway.
How about the definition of marriage? Should we talk about that?
Oh, the definition of marriage. Well, God. Everyone knows it's a God instantiated institution for men and women. Am I right? Can I get an amen in the back in the chat? Can I get a something? No.
Any good marriage should be a man, a woman, and then God up top. Have you ever seen that thing?
Yeah. God is the rain cloud, and the man is the umbrella, and the women and children are under the umbrella. It's something like that.
Yeah, there's different ones. There's the umbrella series, and then there's just where you have the man on one side and the woman on the other side, and they need to have their exclusive relationship, but then God needs to be over the whole thing, meaning you have to like pray and I don't know, whatever. But let's start our next video, huh?
Let's do it.
Understand the definition of marriage. I would suggest that the definition of marriage isn't something we define, it's something we discover.
Yeah, and pause. Pause right there. What an awesome statement. He said, it's not something we define, it's something we discover, like Antarctica. Like, what do you mean? Like a new species of bird.
Indiana Jones found it right next to the Ark of the Covenant.
What do you mean you discover it? Marriage isn't discovered, homie. What's going on? What? That's so funny. That was so funny. Yeah, I love that part. That's the best part of this whole video.
It
It's
gets
downhill
better
from
when
here.
he shows how we discover it.
That's true. Okay, yeah, he does talk
Acknowledgement
about
that
that.
when we come into this world, it's already furnished for us. It's furnished by those who came before us, and those who came before them, and those who came before them, and ultimately all the way back to God, who.
So basically, it's a tradition, and so other people came up with a definition. When you're born, basically just defer to what the generations before you told you it was. So
I interpreted that differently. I thought what he's saying there is it's because you're a straight couple and you get to make babies, and that's what makes marriage cool. I thought that's what he was saying, basically.
oh, I'm sure that's coming up. But
Yeah.
at this point, he just said that he traced it back to when you're born, you don't just define marriage for yourself. The people around you define it for you.
Yeah, it's
And then
it's almost like it's a social construct. That's crazy.
Yeah. But he
Yeah.
just pushes it back to the generation before them, and ultimately to God.
Right.
So really, this is just a handy authoritarian view of marriage. You have to listen to us. You don't get to define this. You discover it, and you discover it in what we tell you to just sit back and do.
Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff. I'm
already
learning so
created
much.
forms and structures in place so that civilization could be possible. And not every structure will be able to support civilization and empower it to grow and multiply and fulfill our divine directive to be fruitful, multiply, and fill the earth. Not every attempt to redefine marriage does that. So, strictly speaking, when I say marriage, I'm talking about marriage as it's been defined before anybody ever tried to redefine it. The marriage.
I agree with you, sir. I think we should go back to our roots and say marriage is about gaining the property of your neighbor's fiefdom, so that you can have, a tax system, or you could perhaps, collect and distribute possibly the wages of the rice workers on your farm better. Marriage is definitely, I agree, it's it's a political binding between rival clans. And I don't like it when people try to redefine that. I think we need to go back to the basics, right? I think that's what he's getting at.
Even if you want to just look to the Bible and you just want to take the Bible as being literally true in its definition of marriage, I might be wrong, but I've read through the Bible. I've read most of it a couple times. Does the Bible ever depict somebody going through a ceremony to get married?
I mean, there's marriage ceremonies, yeah. Like Jesus turned the water at the wine at a marriage ceremony, and then there's like, I'm pretty sure there's some celebrations in the Old Testament. Right?
There are celebrations, but does it
Yeah.
show there being a necessary step where you have to come before the Lord and do a certain thing before you're rightly married? Because there are a lot of times in the Bible where Jacob just went into a woman's tent and married her. Like I know there were celebrations, and I know there were like actual weddings and stuff like that. But there are times when the Bible says someone just went and married somebody else, and I don't picture there having been a celebration or even time for one before he's just in his tent doing his thing with her.
You're saying the actual marriage ceremony is just kind of not all there. Like it's not really, people just kind of get married just cuz. That's kind of what you're saying.
Yeah, I think getting married is a euphemism for you like go into her tent and get busy, basically. At least in some certain parts of the Old Testament. That's the way it reads to me sometimes. I overstated. I don't mean that there was never anything resembling a marriage ceremony in the Bible, but I don't see any clear teaching in the Bible that that sex is wrong until you and the other person have gone through a certain ceremony where you declare your eternal commitment to each other before the Lord. But maybe I'm wrong with that.
I mean, I guess you'd have to maybe that's more of a Jewish history question. You know, maybe Maimonides wrote about that. I don't know, but I'll say this much, Saad. There's a lot of married dudes in the Bible that have more than one wife. Like,
Yeah.
it's definitely a lot. Like, it's not just a few. It's quite a number. So I don't know what that says about their marriage or what marriage is supposed to be. But there's definitely some legal shenanigans involved in marriage. I don't think there's an instance in the Bible where marriage didn't have some sort of legal tomfoolery happening in some way or another, you know?
But apparently Adam and Eve used penguins as their witnesses. I'm not sure what that exactly was.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you for that. I guess, you know, in the Garden of Eden, they had the penguins. They're witnesses to their marriage. But it doesn't ever say that they get married, I guess. Yeah, right? Doesn't it just kind of say, I made this woman for you. That's kind of it.
I guess that's what I'm trying to get at.
Okay.
For all the talk about how there is this definition of marriage, you would think if that always existed and was something dictated to us by God and we all had to abide by, that the Bible would have been crystal clear on that and would have shown us examples of, there would have been something in the law between Exodus and Deuteronomy explaining how you conduct a marriage and when you're actually properly wedded to someone so that your sex with them becomes not sin anymore, right? There's nothing like that, and it's not modeled anywhere in the text. Like the most I'm aware of is that Jesus shows up and there's a wedding feast going on. There's nothing that describes, okay, you go up to the front of the aisle, the priest or pastor, whatever, says this, and then you say this and you make this commitment. If there's supposed to be some kind of contract or covenant or something like that, I don't even know the Bible ever describes marriage as being a covenant. Maybe it does, but not consistently, and it never really describes the terms of it. So for them to sit here and talk about marriage being clearly defined, I think they've really redefined marriage, honestly. Current Christian culture has redefined it, and there's been an ongoing redefinition. But even if it wasn't, this is an extremely authoritarian stance, because guess what? Christianity is not the only culture in the world, and they aren't the first people to have come up with a definition of marriage. And so, I don't know.
I got curious. I'm on jewfaq.org.
Okay.
/marriage. Acquiring a spouse. It says the Mishnah Kedushin, chapter 1, verse 1, specifies that a woman is acquired, i.e., to be a wife, in 3 ways: through money, a contract, and sexual intercourse. Ordinarily, all 3 of these conditions are satisfied, although only one is necessary to effect a binding marriage. So there you go.
Yeah.
That's it. Just gotta pay some money.
I guess there is something that there is some legal contract or something. It's never really explicitly described, but there is one, because if you've been found to have, committed a crime against a woman, you have to marry her. So there is something that follows. But yeah.
There's stuff here about, obviously rabbinic commentaries on the process of marriage. So take with that as you will. But yeah, marriage is not just a Christian institution. It's not just a Jewish institution either. That's kind of the main point that I would say is important here.
Yep.
But we should move on here.
Important is the
I just
possible.
messed that up.
Oh,
sorry.
no.
And not every structure will be able to support, multiply, and fulfill our divine directive to be fruitful, multiply, and fill the earth. Not every attempt to redefine marriage does that. So, strictly speaking, when I say marriage, I'm talking about marriage as it's been defined before anybody ever tried to redefine it. The marriage that we discovered. And when someone talks about gay marriage, that to me sounds like you're not talking about marriage. Now, I'm not trying to bash on people. I'm not trying to be harsh, but whatever that union is called.
It just doesn't sound like it to me. He didn't discover that one. I just found out about that.
I'm not trying to be harsh. It's just, your marriage isn't a real marriage. I mean, no offense, not trying to be rude.
No offense. I'm not trying to be harsh, but your ways of life are evil according to the Lord thy God. That's it, partner. You'll burn in hell for eternity for your sins against the Lord. But that's all I'm saying, brother. I ain't trying to offend nobody.
And he says your wedding or your marriage doesn't sound like a marriage to me. It's like, why do I give a fuck? That's not your concept of marriage.
Listen, man, I'm from Massachusetts, and I grew up in that area of the world. And where I'm from, we didn't hear about your version of marriage, so that's not real. That's basically what he's saying. I'm not from Massachusetts. I'm just imagining a hypothetical Massachusettsian. That's hilarious. Yeah.
I might be wrong, but I think a ton of what we do at our weddings is Roman in origin, like Roman pagan traditions, like eating cake and having a white dress and stuff like that. I think a lot of that's Roman. I might be wrong, but I don't think it came straight out of the Bible.
Yeah, I don't know, but that's weddings, though. You know, he's talking about marriage. He's talking about.
That's true. That's true.
If gay people want to get married, they can, but they don't want to because they're gay.
I forgot about that. Let me run that back. Real quick. Hold on. Run that back.
They can, but they don't want to. On people, to me sounds like you're not talking about marriage. Now, I'm not trying to bash on people. I'm not trying to be harsh, but whatever that union is called, if gay people want to get married, they can, but they don't want to because they're gay.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, bro. True, dude. True. Yeah, dude. They can just get married if they want to. They don't want to because they're gay, obviously. So funny.
I think clearly what he means is that what they want to do isn't marriage, right? So basically they can choose to find a good woman.
I think he literally just thinks that gay people just want to have sex and like not be committed. I think it's that stupid. I think he just has a stereotype of gay people in their mind. Like, it's not like gay people fought for decades to get marriage legalized or anything. Like, what the fuck? That's awesome. What a take. This guy's like, I never heard of no gay person that wanted to get married. Never met them. They must not exist. We haven't discovered them yet.
You know? No offense, but you don't even want to get married because you're gay.
You're gay. You don't even want to get married. But I guess he means, yeah, maybe you're right. I guess he means they don't want to get married, i.e., they don't want to have a straight relationship. Like,
because he said he says that what they're doing doesn't look like a marriage to me.
Yeah.
So they don't want to get married because they don't want to do what I see as marriage.
Yeah,
that's the way I read that.
That has to be. That's the only way that makes sense.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that's so. I mean, out of all the ways you could have worded that,
that's not how we do it in our parts.
Not how we do it where I'm from. I never heard of such a thing.
If you prefer the same sex, you're entirely welcome to marry someone of the opposite sex, settle down and have kids. God bless you if you do. But if you want to be with someone of the same sex, that's not marriage. Now, this may sound like Christians kind of forcing their way on society, but I would contend that every culture throughout human history, up until about 5 minutes ago, recognized that that was not just how God made it from the Abrahamic religions, but that's how nature ordained it.
No, you're wrong. A lot of marriages, especially old ones, was with one dude and multiple women. It's not one man and one woman. Like, that's more recent than anything, right? Like, obviously, that's always kind of been a thing too, but like, to define it exclusively that way and to say, oh, this is the one thing that all cultures have in common, I don't even think that's true. I think that there's like native cultures that have, two-spirit culture identities, right? That also have different ideas of how marriages could be. I mean, it's just, he's saying it's new, so it's not real. That's it.
There are a lot of cultures where your your wife is just basically a servant at the home who takes care of the home and makes babies for you. And in some of them, you go out and have other aspects of your relationships with the dudes. And, like from what I understand, based on ancient history classes, like Greek culture was a little bit complicated on which parts of your sexuality went where. And it was all pretty expected in society. So even if you were married to a woman, that was like a functional thing, kind of a domestic partnership / baby making situation. And it wasn't, not all societies have defined marriages the way we do.
Yeah. Also, even if it was an older thing in culture, why does that matter if you're a Christian? Like if you have one, way of doing things and this is the right way, you shouldn't care about historical examples anyway. So why would you make an appeal to tradition in the first place? It just doesn't doesn't
I
really
just
make
realized
sense.
something. Something. Christian apologists will say, well, yeah, the Bible made accommodations for slavery or something like that. But that's because all the nations in the world had slavery.
Yeah,
And they
true.
hold that up as something that we've grown past. But now when it's something they still want to enforce, well, all the nations supposedly had this one definition of marriage up until now. So, our thoughts about changing slavery are okay, but our thoughts about changing marriage as we grow and become more progressive aren't.
He's like, guys, this whole anti-slavery movement, this just happened 5 minutes ago. You know what I mean? There's always been slaves throughout history. That's the most common thing. It's these new weirdos who want to free everybody. That's what's wrong. Yeah, for sure. Not great.
Well, and it all ties together. When you start freeing slaves, that leads to miscegenation, which then leads to, the gay marriage.
Yeah, true. It's true. You're onto something here, Zod.
Because that's the kind of union that secures the female, protecting, providing, making sure she is emotionally and socially supported.
Mr. President, we got to secure the female. Secure the female. Get down. My man said secure the female like he's trying to secure that used Toyota Corolla at the dealership. He said, we got to secure that deal, honey. We got to make bank on that tonight. We got to take out some loans. It sounds
a little to me like the wife is having a girls' night out and he's afraid things are going to get a little out of control. So his friends tell him, go secure the female.
Let me tell you guys something. I just got engaged to the most wonderful woman, and I love her very much. She doesn't need me to secure her. She's good. I'm happy I get to be a part of her life, but I ain't. I am not. I'm not securing her. Okay, maybe that's y'all's relationship. That's not mine. Man, so funny.
Well, maybe we should have a society where women aren't so vulnerable, like society-wide, it's a place where women aren't vulnerable if they're in public or living on their own or something like that.
Yeah.
Like maybe society should be enough of a lawful place that if you're assuming women are generally weaker or more vulnerable physically, which across the board, they are going to have some maybe society should be enough of a law-abiding place and a safe, secure place that a woman doesn't have to be dependent on a dude to take care of her the way he sees fit and be so dependent on him for that she just has to live with whatever he's like, which is kind of what this leads to.
Nah, I think we should just treat women as property. I think that's the way to go, Zod. It's worked out for all of history. This idea of feminism only occurred 5 minutes ago, Zod. In terms of history, it's not
the whole slavery analogy kind of extends here too, because like he's basically saying you need to secure the females, you need to have them in your home where they're taken care of and all that kind of stuff. If you just let the slaves go run wild, they got to be secured too, so you have someone to take care of them. It's the same kind of patronizing attitude.
You're so right. You're so right. You're so right. There's so many. When you read people's accounts of the slave mentality. Oh, this is how the slave thinks. This is the slave mindset. It's like, oh my God, like how dehumanizing that is. But you're so right. They say the exact same thing about women. They really do. It's just the natural order according to them. Gosh, that is
And
I hate that
thank you,
made that
thank you,
connection.
Beyond. Thank you, Beyond, for the $20 super chat. Glad to finally catch a live. Hurry, nature ordained. Google gay
Google
whales.
gay whales. That's an awesome super chat. I love that. RE nature ordained. Google gay whales. That's great. Yeah, no. What is Yeah, when you really think about him saying we got to secure the females, there's a lot of implications there. None of them are good, right? So much
And
for being equal in marriage.
the way I look at this, and this comes up a lot when, say, Prager, you tweet something about, we think society should be this way, or you should have this kind. I'm like, yeah, if you want to have that kind of marriage, that's fine. Go home and have it with somebody who wants to have it with you. If a woman feels like she wants to have a certain kind of security with a guy, if she, is freely making that choice and that fulfills her life, she can go ahead and do that. But why does this need to be a society-wide thing? Just have your relationship and do your thing and enjoy it. Why does this need to be turned into a public policy question?
Yeah. It's how God designed it. This is God ordained.
Oh yeah, I forgot. You have to go back to
domesticates
truth.
The male, so he's not just a ruffian.
Wait, let's go back a second. It
domesticates the male.
Because we're talking about domesticating.
Protecting, providing, making sure she is emotionally and socially supported. It domesticates the male, so he's not just a ruffian. And it rears children. And you can meet all of those traditionally and effectively in natural marriage, or which
you gotta listen. Marriage is all about keeping the man in line. We gotta make sure they're not ruffians. God, those unmarried men. We gotta stop them. Like now we're saying men can't even be accountable for themselves. No, they have to have a woman to help them with that. Like, Jesus. Oh man.
This is the same thing with society. Needs to be a place where women are safe to, walk freely on the streets and stuff like that, and get a job if they want. Society should also just be a place where men are generally expected not to be ruffians. There should be societal expectations and institutions in place that discourage that behavior. Like, why does everything need to suddenly fall on the Christian idea of marriage?
Yeah.
It's just
marriage.
Weird.
It's marriage that's going to change that man from potentially, doing lascivious things with a woman. Getting him married will stop him from doing that for sure. Yeah, it's marriage that always changes the guy's personality and makes them better. Absolutely. What a concept, man.
Just called marriage. And we have yet to discover any other social institution that can compete in effectiveness with marriage. Now, I'm sure people are going to...
What are we competing? What's the competition? What are the rules? What do you mean? They can't compete. Can't compete with what?
Number one, you're wrong. You're just incorrect. And number two, this shouldn't be a question of one institution.
Yeah.
Like, I think a lot of these things are solved by a web of institutions that society builds up. And like a woman being secured or taken care of, maybe education that helps with that, job opportunities, a safe society where, for example, crime is deterred and sexual harassment isn't tolerated and stuff like that. Those are all things that I would say more than compete with marriage. And I think if you ask more women to rate what they think of those institutions versus marriage, I think they would give answers that could enlighten this guy if he had any inclination to hear it.
Yeah. Something tells me he doesn't. But anyway.
Yeah, this isn't about exploring any of those ideas and really trying to come up with an understanding of what institution does what. This is purely about retroactively justifying a conclusion, which isn't even male and female marriage. It's taking a shit on gay people. That's really all that this is.
It is. You're so right.
To.
Yeah. If he hasn't personally discovered it, it doesn't exist. also doesn't matter. That's what I'm learning here.
Keep trying.
Yeah.
Keep trying new experiments with ways to re-engineer society, but all of these social experiments are often forgetting what humankind really is, and that we've come into a pre-furnished civilization that has a lot of this stuff designed for us, and if we wreck it, there might not be another one.
So pre-furnished civilization, we've basically had a pre-furnished civilization and we keep trying new things. So again, would he apply this thinking to slavery? Like there's
so true.
And it's not slavery is just one blunt example. There are a ton of different ways that society has evolved. Why does that suddenly need to stop now? We all know why.
But listen, I mean, the crucial thing is at the end there, right? He's warning people. He's saying, oh, we have to keep this up or else what? Like what's the case? You give them a saying that was almost a threat. It was saying like, oh, gay people are threatening to take away the marriages of like straight people somehow, I guess, if we don't keep having straight marriages. Like, what are the consequences of allowing gay people to be married? Oh no. It's almost like other people can be happy. That's crazy. But it's not about being happy. It's about securing the female and stopping unmarried ruffians from doing bad things to women by getting them in a marriage, I guess. And by getting them in an intimate, close space with a woman. We're somehow protecting women. But I just think about that one for a second.
In a lot of ways, this basically puts a lot of the trust in the man. I think we talked about this with something about women being subservient to men, but the men aren't really the head of the relationship. I don't remember if it was you or it was John that I was talking with us about on one of the episodes, but yes, the man is supposed to do the right thing by the woman and everything like that, but the trust is on him to decide to do that and then decide how to do that. So in this idea of marriage, if marriage is supposed to fulfill all these roles, make sure the woman's secured, make sure the man's not being a ruffian and all that stuff, there's this vague expectation that he do that. But basically you just put the man and the woman together and send him off and say, okay, dude, promise that you're going to do this right and exercise your authority in a correct way. And there aren't a lot of safeguards if you think that marriage is supposed to catch all this stuff.
Yeah. It's not like cheating on your spouse or hitting your spouse or, for intimidating your spouse from achieving academically or financially is going to stop you from going to heaven or being a Christian, right? You don't get your Christian license taken away for doing those things. You still get to go to church. You still get to hang out with other people and you still get to perpetuate that norm. But God forbid you marry another man. No, that's it. Gates of hell for you. Straight up. That's we gotta defend civilization. And by defend civilization, I mean straight people, Zod. We gotta make sure the precious institutions of straight marriages are kept up with, because God forbid, we're gonna run out of straights to marry. There's not gonna be enough of them, and then we'll die out. And that's it. So
I'm married. I'm in what would look like the typical Christian heterosexual marriage with kids. The only difference is we were previously married and divorced, and now we have like a mix of kids and stepkids. That's the only different thing. But on paper, we just look like your typical Christian household in how it's structured and everything, except obviously there's more blasphemy and stuff in our house. Right. I have that kind of marriage, and nothing about somebody else having a gay marriage threatens that, or even could potentially threaten that or change what our life looks like in any way. It's just really bizarre.
Yeah. But for some reason we got to make a whole apologetics thing about it, I guess.
Yeah, really, it's purely just intellectualizing the fact that you want to you think they're yucky and you want to be able to validate what you think is sin. That's
Yeah, they're saying, "Nuh-uh, you say you guys are married, but nuh-uh, it's not my marriage. It's not. It's not like what I have.
And they did
Mine's
touch on
better
the
than yours."
population thing. They did touch on the population thing. Like that, the population thing is the dumbest one ever, I think.
Yeah.
Like that's one thing the earth needs. I think if God commanded people to like fill the earth, I think we've met that benchmark already. I think we're good.
Yeah. If every person alive who wanted to be in a homosexual marriage was married, the population's still going up. Like, it's not gonna change that much. I really don't think it's gonna, be that big of a deal if we're talking about global numbers here. So, if anything, it'll help keep us in check a little bit. But I
Yeah,
guess we're not ready for that
these
conversation.
a lot of these same evangelical Christians, I think, are like the build the wall types and keep out the immigrant types.
Mm.
So apparently, at least our corner of the world is plenty full and doesn't need more people. So I don't know why anybody being in a gay marriage is a crisis because we're not populating the earth enough.
Yeah. No, I think he's right. I think we need to go back to traditional marriage, start a harem, you know, and we'll just secure all the women by getting them married to multiple women to single digits of guys, so that we can protect more of them, and secure more of them. I think that should be the way to do it if we really care about their safety and stuff, right? So
Yeah.
just an idea.
And honestly, I need to confess. I have to confess. I would be a hoodlum if not for the fact that I'm married.
A ruffian, even. Yeah, I'd
Yeah,
see it.
yeah, both.
I'd
I
see
would
it.
be both.
Mm-hmm. I'd see it. You'd be doing various crimes and I don't know, just making
And
your
there's a whole
parents
other.
not proud
I
of you.
think we had a comment that mentioned this, and I'm sorry I let it go by without catching it. But there is a whole other ugly aspect to this that women are somehow. It's somehow expected that men behave like out of control children, and it's women's job to civilize them. It
Right.
sounds. It sounds a little bit like I don't know, it sounds like it's thinking highly of women or whatever, but I think basically what it amounts to is saying that women need to put up with our behavior and it's their responsibility to kind of ground us and everything and be patient with us.
Yeah. It's giving men a free pass, like giving them an excuse when they refuse to take accountability for themselves. Whereas if a woman, like say a woman, does something terrible to their spouse, right? Maybe they cheat on them or something, right? Well, suddenly she's, a whore and a harlot and, is a temptress and is wicked. But if a man does it, it's just like, oh, well, it's not good that he did that, but he is a man, so it's just like
Yeah.
kind of expected. Like it's not even, it's not even as scandalous, even for a lot of people. But I don't know, Zod. That was a lot
I don't know.
to take in,
Yeah.
What have we discovered today? Did we discover anything new?
We discovered that
Did we discover marriage?
I don't know. I think we discovered that I'm not married.
Oh,
Not really anyway, because Jesus says that you're not supposed to marry a divorced woman, and I
right.
married a divorced woman. So really,
Yes.
I'm not actually even married. I don't even want to be married.
Whoa.
And so
That's
I'm just
crazy.
acting out my non-marriage. That's what I learned today, I think.
Oh, that's kind of the
Except,
opposite of my thing right now. I'm trying to do the marriage thing right now. So
yeah.
that's on me, I guess. But anyway, I learned.
Anyway,
I am saddened by the things seen here. Some of it, a lot of it's not new. Just rephrasing of the same old bullshit. But I will continue to call it out when I see it, and to commiserate with everyone, including the folks in the chat. For if we can do anything, we can at least laugh at it. Whichever says the lesson
The gays were the friendships we made along
We
the
made
way.
along the way. That's right. That's a good one. That's a good one. Folks, this has been another stream of Zidanza. If you like what you see, you can always donate to the Patreon. Thanks to the folks who gave us super chats tonight, and we got to shout you guys out. Subscribing to the channel is also another way you can support us, and leaving a comment saying what you like, what you don't like, and what you want to see more of is also super helpful. Zod, what else is there to say about today?
I would just say thank all of you for your support. Our viewers have been consistently higher. We've had a lot more people joining us here, a lot of activity in the chat. I have a blast with all that stuff. So thank you all. We have hopefully some fun stuff coming up. I've been getting some stuff in the mail. Miranda, who I believe is our first patron, also sent me a couple things, which I look forward to showing off to you guys. So we'll have, if you have Christian products that you want us to take a look at, you can show it to us. If you send us anything in the mail, we would love doing like a physical representation and unboxing and stuff like that. So looking forward to it. Dan, I'm going to pass off the final word to you. What's our closing advice?
I'm so
for the
glad
night?
you asked. The closing words for tonight are secure the females.
There you go.
Remember to secure the females. Have a
good night, everybody. Remember to secure your females, and if you are a female, get secure.
Secure yourself. Secure your friends.
Yes. All right. Good night.
Voy a cantar esta canción con mucho cariño de mi corazón a la República Dominicana, la casa del merengue y la casa de la bachata. Voy a cantar esta canción con mucho cariño de mi corazón a la República Dominicana, la casa del merengue y la casa de la bachata. La casa del merengue, la y la casa de la bachata.